I didn't want to do it myself, but I wanted other people to do it.
I tried to kick the ball, but my tenny flew right on. I'm red as a beet, 'cause I'm...
Inspired by a radio evangelist broadcast, Wilson became infatuated with the significance of eating vegetables. So he wrote a song to spread the word.
I threw away my candy bar and I ate the wrapper. And when they told me what I did, I burst into laughter. I know that you feel better when you send us in your letter and tell us the name of your favorite vegetable.
Well, with Brian, there was never any doubt. If you wanted to do something, you just did it.
Come on over, Lauren. You won't believe this. Come on.
It just seemed so bizarre when he talked about it.
I just remember the sandbox appearing.
We had some people bring a sandbox into my living room, and we had it boxed off with wood so the sand wouldn't fall over the house. And Van Eyck and I worked on songs sitting at the sandbox. My piano was right in the sandbox.
It was thousands of pounds. The cleanest white sand you've ever seen, and this gorgeous Stanway Grand.
When people come over and see it, they would say, "What in the heck are you doing?" That's very creative.
When you saw it, and he'd be sitting there in bare feet, playing with his feet in the sand.
We sat barefooted, just like it gave us the feeling that we were on the beach.
And shut your eyes, and you're feeling the sand. Then it made sense.
What really became the problems was the two dogs crapping in the sand.
So what did you write in the sandbox?
We wrote Heroes and Villains, Cabin Essence, Surf's Up, and Wonderful in the sandbox.
It was a pretty good sandbox.
Yeah, it was a great sandbox, yeah.
Late in 1966, as the Beach Boys embarked on yet another tour, Brian finished the backing tracks for the Sandbox songs, the centerpiece compositions of his collaboration with Van Dyke Parks.
Farther down, the path was a mystery. Through the recess, the chalk and numbers, a boy bumped into her. Wonderful.
The Smile compositions were complex, and so the musicians assembled to realize them were virtuosos, schooled in jazz and classical music.
We were working for Quincy Jones, we were working for Phil Spector, we were working for Gary Usher, and we were doing all the dates. So he was just one of our accounts. There was something special about him. That's what we noticed.
He went in there trying to get emotion out of them. And I think a lot of them were shocked because they were just used to playing the notes correctly, and he'd go in and say, "No, I want you to lean on the note more. Make it sound like crying."
Oh, the clarinets blow a little harder, actually. Make it feel like a Dixieland thing in the room or something. Here we go.
He heard sounds, combination of sounds that were not written before at all. And I think because he didn't have any rules.
When you're shaking a tambourine, make it sound like jewelry or tinkling. So he talked in a different way to them.
Beautiful, now it sounds like jewelry. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, go.
He was creating something really, really big and broad and beautiful. Something very rare.
It felt real, kind of almost made me dizzy. We were on such a creative role, I almost got dizzy. I almost got dizzy.
He was the hottest, most plugged-in person in music, in my opinion. Above the Beatles, above any other act. He was the man.
He was producing, he was performing, and he was writing and arranging. So that's what floored me later on. I thought, why does this guy have so much talent? It's not fair.
Soon, Brian Wilson's incredible talent was being recognized outside the pop music world. The musical invention and sophistication of both Pet Sounds and Good Vibrations, his first million-selling single, attracted the attention of the most important American maestro of classical music.
For a long time now, I've been fascinated by this strange and compelling scene called pop music.
Leonard Bernstein, New York, CBS, big step.
I think this music has something terribly important to tell us adults, and we would be wise not to behave like ostriches about it. Besides, as I said, I like it. Of course, what I like is maybe 5% of the whole output, which pours over this country like the two oceans from both coasts, and it's mostly trash. But that good 5% is so exciting and vital, and, may I say, significant, that it claims the attention of every thinking person.
Leonard Bernstein was quite infatuated with Pet Sounds and quite interested in Brian because he could hear in that music something that he wasn't hearing in very much pop music at all. And certainly not in American pop music, which were the roots of classical composition, original composition.
All these new adventures are simply extraordinary.
So that gave us some kind of validation that we were doing the right thing to explore, to try to get outside the box.
Now, what does all this mean? I think it's all part of a historic revolution.
Carbon-dated ruins down.
Here is a new song, too complex to get all of first time around. It could come only out of the ferment that characterizes today's pop music scene. Brian Wilson, leader of the famous Beach Boys and one of today's most important pop musicians, sings his own Surf's Up.
Dove-nested towers, the hour was struck, the straight quicksilver moon. Carriage across the fog, two-step, two lamplights and a tune. The laughs come out in auld lang syne. The glass was raised to fire, it rose the fullness of the wine, the dim last toast. While it poured unto our time, a choke of grief, heart-hardened I, the unbelief, a broken man too tough to cry. Surf's up, board a tidal wave, come about hard and join the young, and off in spring you came. I heard the word, wonderful thing, a children's song.
Poetic, beautiful even in its obscurity, Surf's Up is one aspect of new things happening in pop music today. As such, it is a symbol of the change many of these young musicians see in our future.
The Smile period saw Wilson exploring one mind-blowing idea after another. While the Beach Boys toured England to huge acclaim, he stayed at home, feverishly developing an orchestral suite that would represent the elements: earth, air, fire, and water. The fire movement he named Mrs. O'Leary's Cow, after the creature that allegedly started the disastrous 1871 Chicago fire.
Everything was being played out somehow. It was like being taken even to another step. It wasn't just music now. It was like life in a funny, kind of humorous way.
Recording fire was like we brought fire helmets for the musicians, little toy fire hats, and I brought in a bucket of fire, and it made the mood come real good. You know, go real good.
All of a sudden, the wheel in a trash barrel on fire, it was not conducive to breathing. Don't worry, it won't be on the record. You know, they won't hear it. Oh, that's great.
Now, remember, there would have been 5, 6, 7 of these going on at once. Everybody had a whistle. It was almost like a New Year's Eve party, to parallel it that way. Everybody was just having fun, and the guys loved it.
Fire was a little bit bizarre for me to go through. It was a little bit of a bizarre sound, but we did it. It's very different off-the-wall music, so it's not your, it's not like Surfer Girl or Be True to Your School. I was feeling unhappy, so I thought that fire tape would express the crazy, weird thoughts I was going through.
Down the street from the studio, there was a warehouse that burned down to the ground. It burned to the ground. And I thought it was my fault when we did fire tapes that day. I thought that the fire tapes, the songs that the music that we created about fire, I thought that was responsible for the building burning down to the ground.
There was like, all of this was so much fun. And I was watching the guy in crisis. And I knew that all of a sudden, if this was a joke, it was at someone's expense. And whose expense was it but Brian's?
More than anything, the Mrs. O'Leary's cow episode was a turning point, the first real sign of Wilson's paranoia. Adding fuel to the fire, the Beach Boys would soon return from their sellout English tour.
I wish they all could be in California. I wish they all could be in California. I wish they all could be in California.
Before the Beach Boys came back from England, I was a little worried that they wouldn't like what I was doing.
Support is really important. For Brian, it was critical. I mean, no to Brian was really not a good thing.
I thought maybe they wouldn't like it at first, but I knew they'd get used to it as soon as they heard it all.
I've been in this town so long to the city. I'm fit with the stuff to ride in the rough, and sunny down Snuff I'm alright. By the heroes and villains.
When they said they didn't like it, it hurt my feelings a lot. It really did. It really killed me inside. Yeah.
I think it was the start of him having doubts, which he never had.
I'd done the tracks, and I needed their voices on the tracks. Even though I could sing all the parts, I still needed them to do it. I needed that blend, that Beach Boy blend. I knew they were right. They didn't know, but I knew. They didn't think they were right for it, but I knew they were right for it.
Despite initial reservations, the group started recording the vocals. For months, their leader struggled to integrate the other Beach Boys into his and Van Dyke's compositions. But it seemed nothing the group did matched his artistic vision. Nothing satisfied him.
It was awful to watch because the procedure was always Brian going into the studio with the guys and going over the parts with them in the past. And he was doing that with these lyrics.
The music hall a costly bow, the music all is lost for now, to a muted trumpeter swan, colonnaded ruins domino.
These were almost like puzzles to try to figure out what the heck he was talking about.
There was a huge amount of frustration. You could see Brian becoming very frustrated. Mike was trying to make sense out of it. Carl was being diplomatic about it, and Dennis was going, "We can do it, Bri."
They knew it was good music, but they didn't think it was right for them.
Outside the studio, Wilson's competitive impulse escalated. In early 1967, he believed he was caught up in a production race, and being first with the new sound meant weeks could make a difference.
One night, Brian and I were driving to Dolores's for him to get burgers and fries and pie. and he turned on the radio, and something came on from the Beatles.
I was on Seconal, you know, those kind of pills, downers, and I was real relaxed. And when Strawberry Fields came on the radio, I like locked in with it. I locked right in with it, and like took me. I had to pull over to my car over to the side, listen to it, and I said, "I've never heard anything like this in my life."
And he just shook his head and he said, "They did it already." And I said, "They did what?" And he said, "What I wanted to do was smile. You know, maybe it's too late." And I just started laughing my head off. And he started laughing his head off. So I always, you know, I never gave that much import to that. But the moment he said it, he sounded very serious.
By now, recording Smile had taken over 6 months. In Wilson's career, no album had ever taken this long to finish. Capitol Records was desperate to get it. They even started to advertise its release. But as the group struggled to record their vocals, Brian faced increasing resistance.
There were recording sessions where people wouldn't participate. There were meetings where it was discussed that this wasn't going well. My sense was that Mike Love felt that the Smile thing was too far out for the Beach Boys. He knew that the Beach Boys had a winning formula in what they did and what they wrote about, and he didn't want to go this other way.
Mike did not like Smile at all. He hated it. He hated it.
And then it got very complex, and I think too complex for Brian at that time. It started interfering with the music.
The resistance was like something I didn't like. I didn't like the resistance at all. I didn't like it.
I think he started getting pummeled mentally.
I didn't know how to deal with it. I really didn't. I didn't know how to deal with it.
It was clear to me, I think probably before anyone else, that Brian was headed for an emotional collapse.
It was a horribly confusing time in Wilson's life. No longer sure who he could trust, he was convinced he was being spied on. His phones were being tapped, and that his car and house were bugged.
He called me one time and wanted to have a meeting, and it was maybe 3 or 4 in the morning. And I went up to the house, and we had to have the meeting in the middle of the pool because they can't bug a pool. This was, for me, the beginning of the end of the humor, joy, happiness, love. I don't know where it was coming from, but there was definitely a paranoia growing in his head.
You were my sunshine, my only sunshine. You made me happy when skies were gray.
When he saw the painting I did of him the first time, he immediately got into counting certain dots and things that I had in the painting, and he was getting some sort of numerological reading from that, of which of course I was totally unaware of when I was doing it. From that point on, from the time he saw the painting on, my relationship with him was starting to change. I felt a change.
Is it hot as hell in here, or is it me? It really is a mystery. If I die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take my misery.
I think he was becoming confused emotionally. I think a lot of issues that had been festering inside this guy, that he had managed to compartmentalize so that he could make his music, may have burst out of their boundaries.
I couldn't even sit here and tell you if it was a week, a month, 2 months, a day, whatever, from how fast the collapse happened in terms of me and them and Brian. It was so fast.
I think it's time for the proper respect given to absolute authority, and that should be given to an artist. And if there's any artist who deserved that, in my mind, at the very point I turned tail and walked away from the project, it was Brian Wilson. But it was not within my power to bring that to him. And that is a great regret.
By March 1967, things were getting progressively worse, with the Beach Boys' decision to sue their record label. Frustrated by the nightmares surrounding Smile, Michael Voss, David Anderle, and Van Dyke Parks, major players all, departed.
God, the forces he was fighting, the guys, his dad, the label, I don't think he could have done it alone. He would have needed his little army to help him.
He didn't lose his sense of control or purpose until well after I'd found my exit, but I knew that was the death knell.
Brian Wilson's musical revolution was not to be. Despite all the extraordinary music composed and recorded, and all the hype and publicity that had the world waiting for this remarkable album, he put it on the shelf.
I'll tell you from my heart. In 1967, the reasons why I didn't finish Smile was Mike didn't like it. I thought it was too experimental. I thought that the fire tape was too scary. I thought that people wouldn't understand where my head was at that time. Those were the reasons.
Knowing Brian, it doesn't surprise me at all that those pressures and whatever other chemicals or influences that he was having to deal with, that he would shut down. It seems like the natural thing to do under those circumstances.
It's just that I felt personally beaten up because I didn't complete it. I felt beaten up.
He just went somewhere else. He checked out. Or it checked out. I don't know if he made a conscious decision for him to get sick the way he did. He just got sick.
I did have a breakdown. I had a nervous breakdown.
Over the years, Wilson continued to record with the Beach Boys, but the emotional stresses of Smile had really taken their toll. Artistically frustrated, he relinquished his role as the group's guiding force. He retreated from public view and then eventually from recording at all. In the late 1980s, he made a comeback with a series of solo albums, but the real turning point didn't come till 1995 with his marriage to Melinda Ledbetter. Suddenly he had a new zeal for life, and against all the odds, he began to perform again in public for the first time in 30 years. The culmination of these tours was a series of concerts where Wilson and his new band performed the classic Pet Sounds album in its entirety. The shows were a critical triumph. What thought his fans would he do next?
She belongs there, left with her liberty.
In spring 2003, Brian Wilson came to London to make a startling announcement. He would be performing Smile live.
After all this time, he can't not do it. He has to finish Smile.
That's incredible. That's a wonderful thing for him to do.
Are we sure about this? Is this going to happen? Is this a wind-up? Is it really going to be Smile? How can it be Smile? What is Smile?
Could it really be right to ask him to do now what he hadn't done 37 years ago?
So it was the most discussion provoking thing that the man could possibly have done.
I mostly thought the fact that he couldn't pull it off. I thought the weight of it would conjure up all these memories and all these things, and then you add in the expectation.
First of all, I just didn't know if Brian was emotionally ready for it, because, there was all these legends about, what Smile meant or did to him.
Once Brian announced Smile, things changed a little bit. Like the excitement, the warmth, and the enthusiasm basically turned to, oh no, this is really going to happen, and it's going to take me back to some really pretty hard times in my life.
He could have just let this sit. I mean, it's the most famous unreleased album of all time, and just let the legend live.
But Wilson had made his decision. Not only that, he'd set himself a deadline to finish the piece. The audience would be in their seats on February the 20th, 2004.
When I got back from London, I said to myself, how am I going to do this? How am I going to get this Smile stuff done?
Aside from
Bad Memories, he's also thinking, oh my God, that's difficult music. You know, it's complex. And he's thinking about the responsibility and having to teach the band parts. It's all of a sudden, it's like, it becomes a stack of dirty dishes that he has to wash, you know? It's like, I don't want to do.
I just pep talked myself into it, to getting into the Smile.
So to break the ice, it was all about, hey, Brian, we're not trying to finish an album here. We're just, how do we perform this music in a way that it would flow?
I approached it one song at a time. One at a time.
Maybe not one.
In my mind, Darian's an unsung hero on the Smile project. If it weren't for him and Brian feeling so comfortable with his assistance, I don't think it would have happened.
Wonderful you. Yeah, we'll do that.
For Wilson, the key to completing Smile had always been how to sequence the individual tracks. To do that in 2003, Darian loaded all of the original Smile recordings into his computer so that Wilson could instantly hear them in any order.
Right there.
There, it fits perfect.
Yeah?
That's perfect, yeah.
So then we have that, but then we also have sections like this.
Father of the man, father of the man.
So then, and then another section that's on that same reel is this.
Wow. Is that just before Surf's Up?
It sort of has that vibe, doesn't it? It could
reminds me of it. It has
With Darian by his side and Van Dyke Parks back on board, writing new lyrics for long-lost melodies, the elements of Smile were assembled into a coherent whole.
It's like a long journey. It's like a trip around the world in a lot of ways. And in fact, if from what I understand of Brian and Van Dyke's original concept, this whole idea of traveling from Plymouth Rock to Hawaii, like the easternmost part of the United States to the westernmost, I really feel like we're traveling and doing that journey, you know.
We touched up the first two movements and we created a third movement. Now we have a rock opera. A three-movement rock opera.
3, 4.
Smile was coming together, finally. And as 2004 began, Brian's band gathered at his home to begin vocal rehearsals.
It was all there, you know, everyone did their homework, and when we came in the first day, I mean, it was awesome. I mean, the vocals were all together and amazing.
I thought it sounded phenomenal. I thought our leader couldn't have been less interested in what was going on. And I thought, boy, if this is going to be an uphill battle to get him to want to do this, we're really going to have a struggle on our hands.
Hey, Wilson,
Eventually,
I'll
stop.
How you feeling today?
So-so.
You all right? Yeah. Anything we can do for you?
No.
You can just chill and listen to the harmonies, absorb the music.
Okay.
Yeah, that first week of vocal rehearsals was really rough.
Nick and I, Brian, do Father of the Child, and then we say another child, a low child, and then you sing. So listen for that low child.
Low child.
Okay, let's do it.
1, 2, 3.
Father of the Son.
Brian really didn't seem like he was very involved. He didn't seem like he wanted to be there at all. And in fact, that was my main worry.
I had the feeling like I didn't want to be there. I was scared to Smile, yeah. I thought I was going to bring back the bad feelings, yeah.
I really felt bad. He seemed incredibly nervous. He would just pretty much sit there. If you feel like singing, if you feel like joining.
I was going through some real tough stuff, you know, and I wasn't able to relate too well. So I sat there and I must have looked like I wasn't having a very good time.
1, 2, 3.
Actually, there was a day when Brian was not feeling well about doing this tour.
I was nervous about my career. You know, I was thinking to myself, I'm too old. I'm too old to have a career. And I was paranoid about being 60 years old. You know what I mean? So I said, I'm going to get out of here.
Aloha nui means goodbye.
Where's the melody there?
Aloha nui means goodbye.
Aloha nui means goodbye. I gotta go.
He ended up in the hospital.
You know, I was going through some inner turmoil, you know, that kind of stuff, yeah.
So we go to the hospital, and there he is laying on this gurney, you know, like, you know. And we started questioning him, asking him, you know, what's going on here? Well, you know, I'm you know, getting nervous about the tour and this and that and the other. And then all of a sudden I thought, okay, I'm going to cut through this BS right away. I go, Brian, do you want to go to dinner? And it was like, oh, yeah, I want to go to dinner.
You know, every day is different.
Aloha nui means goodbye.
You got it! Excellent.
I can do it when you double with me. If I'm on my own, I can't do it.
Ah, you can.
When I'm on my own, I can't. I can't.
Eventually you... Don't sell yourself short. Okay, we'll be your crutch for just temporarily.
Okay.
Here we go.
Jump in the pig pen, next time I'll take my shoes off. Get the dirt to 2.5, next time I'll leave my hat on.
When Brian started to sing, I felt at ease, and I knew that it wasn't just so much that this was his stamp of approval, it's that now he's participating in all of this, and that's what we need.
I've been in this town so long, I've been in this house, Scott. My life used to go with an innocent girl from the Spanish and Indian home of the heroes and villains.
In a weird way, and I know this is, you hear this cliche all the time, but this is therapy for him too. On some level, it really is, beyond just it being music. You know, he has to get over this somehow.
But she's still dancing in the night and afraid of what a doodle did a child.
What do you think, boss?
I think it's going to be a bitch to learn, and it's worth it.
We are not trying to recreate the mystique of Smile. We're trying to play the songs live as best we can in the year 2004.
You know, just the idea that it's titled Smile is I mean, it could be literal smile, but it's also slightly ironic in the fact that we all know Brian. You know, he's got a lot of problems and he's really sad. So there's that wanting to smile.
It's groundbreaking music. I think he was writing from his heart, and I think it was just way ahead of his time. I don't know if at the time, if people would have appreciated it as much as they're going to appreciate it now. I mean, the anticipation has been building for 35 years. I know we were all eager to do this. I think we all wanted to do it, and we all wanted him to do it because we wanted him to get over this hump.
He's so nervous about this, and he associates a lot of rejection with this music.
He's a very private person. We can only guess what he's scared about. I mean, I'm hoping that he has rid himself of the weight of 67 or whatever demons came from that time. I'm hoping have been shed, but they may not have been.
Hey, Brian, what do you think?
Sounds good here.
Kind of a trip, huh? It's gonna be a fun part. And if we can pull this off, and he can get through this, I think it's gonna be one of the bravest things he's ever done.
I think the first couple of weeks during rehearsal, Brian was actually feeling effects of his illness. When he's depressed, a lot of times auditory hallucinations will come into his head.
In 1965, I started hearing voices. After I took LSD, I started hearing these voices saying, "We're gonna kill you, we're gonna kill you." And I would say, "Don't kill me, please don't kill me." And I'd carry on a conversation with these auditory hallucinations, as they're called. Over the years, for a couple of months, they would fade out of my life and they come back in my life. So I've had a hard time with it, but I'm getting through it. Slowly getting through it.
Is it hot as hell in here, or is it me? It really is a mystery. If I die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take my misery.
It's really gutsy. It's taking a tremendous amount of work. I've never seen Brian work so hard.
I could really use a drop to drink. Down. You got it. All right. You got me.
Most people don't know the daily battles that he has to go through just to be on a steady state and to play music and to perform and to send it out into the audience. That takes a lot.
Too tough to cry. Surfs up, aboard a tidal wave. Come about hard and join the young, and off in spring you came. I heard the word, wonderful thing, a children's song.
I think with Brian, he waits until he really needs to do it, to do it.
I see Brian getting more confident and also getting more excited about the music day by day.
I felt this it's like a sea change where you don't even see the iceberg moving, but you sort of feel it.
He just seemed to come alive, and he really sang with a voice that I haven't heard, I don't think ever.
All right. Very good. That was one of the best.
Love you, man. This is strong and good. I'm serious. They're gonna love
It
this
is
thing,
strong.
man.
It is good. I looked at a picture in Playboy today, and it threw me off the track. I'm off the track. Ready to go, guys? Are you ready to go?
Ready to rock.
Are you ready to go?
To rock.
The kid in him is still very much there, very much alive. I can see it when he does this material.
Today I saw Brian having fun. I haven't seen that in a long, long time. Definitely not in these last 3 weeks, but even way before this, I've not seen him just goof off like that.
It's a great sign because he's having fun with the music. I don't think he's afraid of it anymore.
It's been like, we can do Smile? All right, and that makes me feel great.
Sunshine, my only sun. I started smiling today. Just today I started. One to the top, one time, please. From the top. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, go.
We're actually starting to feel the music. And that's important here because this is what this music's all about.
We're trying to cast a spell, a magical spell.
And it hits you every minute you're with him, every minute you're playing his stuff. There's all that deep, complicated stuff that just affects you.
I'm picking up the vibration. She's giving me the excitation. I'm picking up the vibration. She's giving me the excitation.
That tempo is awesome.
You're gonna show those tea bags a thing or two. You're gonna show them. I'm looking forward to it, but with absolute uncertainty and excitement bordering on fear. I keep thinking that there can be no more downside to this risk of getting out there and getting up on the high wire without the net, which is what he will be doing.
Just probably a week before he left, and he just started phoning every night. And sometimes he'd phone 4 or 5 times. Just say, I'm feeling scared.
I'm nervous as hell, yeah. I am.
Tell me what you're nervous about.
I'm nervous about just doing the show. I'm just about doing the show.
I actually got really nervous before we left to go on tour. I really felt that emotionally he was going backwards. And yet, at the same time, when I would say to him, okay, do you not want to do this? No, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I have to do it.
Hello.
I came here all the way from Colchester, Connecticut to see Smile tonight in London for the world premiere.
I'm from Italy.
All the way from Tokyo. From Cape Town, South Africa.
I'm from Sweden.
Glasgow.
Copenhagen, Denmark.
I'm from Germany.
I come from Austria.
France. Paris.
Portland, Oregon.
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Billings, Montana.
Came out from LA.
We were there. We were in London. That was it. That was the first night. It was, do or die.
I thought it was a complete impossibility. Very courageous.
For me, it's just a resurrection of the human spirit.
You wouldn't believe just how wobbly my heart is tonight.
It's just amazing music, and you don't hear anything like that.
It bypasses the brain and goes straight to the heart.
I'm going to see something that people 400 years from now are going to be envious of.
I mean, this is really the holy grail for a whole bunch of people.
You could reckon it to Excalibur. It's been stuck in a rock for so long, and now, like King Arthur, Brian's going to pull it out and wield its power tonight.
It's a dream come true.
The most thrilling moment in my life.
I'm going to have my life pre-Smile, my life post-Smile.
The longest gestation in history. The guy gets pregnant in 1966 and he has the baby in 2004. That alone is worth the price of admission.
The life force of this process is a living one. It's a contemporary experience. It is one man dealing with his own musical history. It just takes a lot of moxie, a lot of courage for Brian Wilson to be willing to do this.
Good to see you, Paul. Give me a kiss. All right.
No talks. Okay.
I'm sorry, man.
It's okay.
I draw a line.
All right, I want you to enjoy the next one. For you.
You're just so good.
Before the concert, I remember him telling me, I'm really scared. The stakes were really high. He didn't want to disappoint anyone, and I didn't want to see him disappointed.
I was scared enough to where I didn't think I was going to be able to do the show. I thought I was going to have to cancel the show. And I said, but if I cancel the show, I'm going to catch hell from the promoter. And, no, it's not going to go over the promoter. So I said, I can't cancel the show. So I said, what do I do? I said, there's nothing I can do except sit and meditate for a half hour until it's showtime.
I think his concentration was, okay, I'm going to present my greatest piece of music to the public, and I am scared to death. And he dwelled on it. He dwelled on it until right before he went on the stage.
never known anything like this before, where we heard about Smile being made at the time when we were in the 60s. And we were so excited, we were waiting for it. And rumours were it was great, but we never heard anything. And it was coming out and we were waiting for it, and it never happened. We waited in vain. And I never thought we'd hear it. And now we've got it, and it's fantastic.
I love the colorful clothes she wears, and she's already working on my brain. I only looked in her eyes, but it picked up something I just can't explain. And I'm picking up vibrations. She's giving me excitation. I'm picking up good vibrations. She's giving me excitation. I'm picking up good vibrations. Good vibrations. I bet I know what she's like, and I feel how right she'd be for me. It's weird how she comes in so strong, and I wonder what she's picking up from me. And I'm picking up vibrations. She's giving me the excitation. I'm picking up vibrations. She's giving me the excitation. I'm picking up good vibrations. Good vibrations. I take a shot. to take this opportunity. Hello? Hold it, hold! I'd like to take this opportunity to invite my friend and collaborator Van Dyke Parks up to the stage here.
When we finished Smile, it felt like the demons had left me. It healed my soul very much. I felt healed by it, yeah. I felt very healed.
She belongs there, left with her liberty, never known as a non-believer. She laughs and stays in